Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Finally Weichert Studios. This is Kip Hagee. I have with me Todd Nickens.
Morning.
Todd, what are we talking about today?
Well, it's January, so let's talk about what happened last year and
Let's not. Let's leave that tucked down way inside. Leave that
okay,
for the
well, maybe we'll
therapist,
talk about
maybe,
what's going to happen this year, or what our opinion is, and what other people's opinions are about what's going to happen in our market. So, I mean, the last 2 years, it's unprecedented. It's historical, really, what we're doing as far as real estate and sales and things. So let's talk about why we think that happened. Obviously, pandemic paid into that, but I think it's more than just pandemic. I think pandemic supercharged it.
Yeah.
But I think the same factors in our area have existed for a long time, and that's inventory. We have a housing shortage. We've known that, we've known that 4 or 5 years in this area.
Well, where are we? Let's make sure.
Oh,
we're in the
Upper East
Tri-Cities.
Tennessee is what
Upper
I call
East
it.
Tennessee,
Appalachian Highlands.
Yeah, what are they going for now?
It's Tri-Cities. It's always going to be Tri-Cities.
Johnson City, Kingsport, Bristol,
Gray.
Jonesboro,
I
Gray.
think they say Gray now. Gray's growing like crazy.
Yeah, Gray. That's Jonesboro, Gray. Those are kind of recession-proof areas that we noticed in the
Well,
story.
Kip, I moved to Johnson City when I first went into management in retail. That was 1989. And I remember saying then that one day the three Tri-Cities will just grow into one city, and Blounteville and Gray will lead that. And you can see that happening already.
Yeah, I think cities will start annexing further out, and then you'll have those three cities touching each other, and then county will just be in your rural areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything's kind of merging together. Colonial Heights is growing.
Yes.
Bluff City, Blountville, Piney Flats.
Well, the new school out,
the new
in Colonial Heights by the airport exit, I think it's going to really. Well, I know it's going to really start to.
There's even several developments going out there right now, in there.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
There was a lot of pretty land off 81.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Turning into houses.
So I think the housing shortage was already there. I talked about, it's basic economics, supply and demand. When there's not enough of the supply, and there's a lot of demand, and then you have a pandemic that then increases the demand. We can talk about why it increased the demand. Then, houses, the prices are going to go up. The sales are going to go crazy. We've seen that for the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's a good one. Why are people moving to Appalachian Highlands or the Tri-Cities or Tennessee in general? However you want to look at it, there's a big influx. I've got clients in California, Texas, New York, Maine, Massachusetts.
Yeah, me too.
So yours are coming from the same place. Without getting into the politics of it.
And that drives some of it, but we don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, a lot of people are moving just to get into a more rural area. Our price points are lower.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Per square foot, it's, I think, dramatic for some people when they come and look here, even with the increased prices now.
Pick a state. Any state. Where most of your people come from? California.
It might be California. Yeah,
California. We'll just go to Realtor.com.
Why? You should too.
I'm not going to use Zillow.
What?
I will plug that. I will plug that all day. Pasadena. That's a cool city.
It is. Isn't that where Big Bang is filmed? I mean, like it's supposed to be based in Pasadena.
Well, you're talking movie trivia. I'm not the guy.
Okay. Sorry.
So let's see here.
What is that? $475,000.
And
2-bedroom, single bath. It looks like it's
$872, I think, and that's on a 2,500 square foot lot.
Oh my gosh.
That would buy a 2,500 square foot luxury home on a half acre.
It's only 672 square feet.
Is that 672 or 872?
It's 672.
672.
475,000.
Brand new listing, Pasadena, California.
Here, you could buy for 475,000.
I mean, look. Let's figure it out.
Oh, he's gonna.
We'll go for it. Let's know. I want to see this right here. We'll give it a price range.
Do 450 to 550.
To 550. Let's
Let's
go
just do
450 to 5. Yeah. We're just gonna pick one random dartboard. Find something that's under contract. I'm sure
because
sure
it's going to
there.
sell.
Where are we at? Let's
We're
see.
near gray.
There's gray. That'll
Yeah.
work.
That one's listed.
Let's make that a little
Hit the
bigger.
Orange.
Whoop. Whoop. I don't know how to use a computer.
Well, you're using it at a great distance. It's not easy.
I mean, at least 12 feet away.
It's grayed out for some reason. It's still adjusting.
Oh, yeah, loading.
Hit your list view up there.
Yeah, it'll work.
Get off the map. Oh wow! Look at this brand new construction. Look at that.
479.9.
479.9. How many
This
square
is in
feet?
Johnson City.
It's 2,000 square feet, brand new.
3 beds, 2 baths.
Man, so 672 to over 2,000 square feet.
I mean, this one has a double garage.
Yeah, it's nice.
You know, that other house
Not a
was,
huge lot, but the other one didn't have a huge lot either.
It was 2,500 square feet. It's less than the house here.
So there's one, just one prime example of why would you move here? Well, you can get way more house, for the same dollars. But that's really not what I've seen happen. What I've seen happen is, of course, Pasadena. It's not a San Diego. I had a client who's in Beverly Hills. I guess it's called Hollywood Hills. He's got a ranch that's 1,800 square feet. He's going to sell at $2.5 million. And then he comes here. If he comes here and buys the same house, I mean, he's going to be looking, and it's like it's an older
retirement.
house. Yeah, I mean, he's going to buy it for $300,000.
Yeah.
For the same kind of house. So, I think that's one factor. I think one thing, the reason the pandemic made it such an impact on our area, is because of the shutdown. It taught employees and employers that yes, I can work from home. I can work remotely and be as productive, actually more productive.
Yeah.
Is what employers see. And it's less overhead for the employer. Why? Because they don't have to have office space. And even here in our town, we have a major corporation here in town, and we know a lot of people that work. They don't all work in the office now. They work from home, even though they're like a mile and a half from the office. I think that's really, so if you don't have to live in that city, whatever, Chicago, San Diego, whatever it is, and now I can live anywhere I want to, where would I go? Well, maybe somewhere that looks nice,
Yeah.
Maybe somewhere that has way lower taxes, right? I mean, I think a few years ago, if you Googled lowest tax rate or property tax in the United States, it came up with Hawkins County, which is only a few miles away, in the entire country. So I think that those two things have really led to what's happening now in our market. So
I know as we do this video and as we make more videos, everybody's going to look at me and they're like, he types so weird.
it's because he found
here's the 10 states with the lowest income taxes, and that's going to be 0.
They all tend to be 0.
Tennessee is one of them.
Well, let's look at those for a second. Okay, so Wyoming's on there, a little remote. Washington, that's a beautiful state. Texas, yeah, it's a little flat. Tennessee has mountains. South Dakota has mountains, but still a lot remote.
and
New
you're seeing a
Hampshire,
huge influx into Nevada.
a lot of people going to Nevada. But you look at all those though, and then just think about location. You take the eastern United States and put your finger in the middle of it, you're going to come close to the Tri-Cities. I think it's a little bit further north than us, but basically if you draw the eastern United States, put your finger in the middle of it, you're really close to us. So I tell people when they move here, I mean, we are close to everything, but we're next to nothing. We have remoteness, we have privacy, we don't have a lot of traffic. But if you want to go to a major city, I mean, we're 3.5 hours from Nashville, we're 4 from Charlotte, Knoxville's an hour and a half.
DC's about 5.5.
If you want something hip, we're an hour and 15 minutes from Asheville, so we've got a lot. And if you like the outdoors, and that's where I see people from California, Idaho, coming here because of.
But people are moving here. That's the big thing, and we know that they're coming to our area. So, like, what does it look like? What's 22 going to look like for all these buyers? What's it going to look like for the sellers? I mean, I definitely know that we've definitely got slim pickings, low inventory. Everybody's
we've
moving
had
here.
that for a while. We talked about that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about buyers first. We were talking about this earlier. Buyers are beat up.
They're tired.
They've had a rough year. A lot of buyers have made a lot of offers with a lot of rejection. So it's a rough, but it's a rough year. Last year was a rough year, but I think this year, I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel. I think there's some hope for a lot of reasons. One, I think buyers are becoming smarter, and I think agents are becoming smarter. They're developing strategies to make better offers. I think last year taught them to be a lot more realistic.
Yeah.
Not just agents, not just sellers, but buyers also have come to realize that the market's moving, right? And what you paid $250 for last year, you're probably going to pay $300 for this year.
Yeah.
So I think for buyers, the thing they need to do is take inventory. Okay, what do I want? How bad do I want to buy a house? What is my budget? Go back to the while since you talked to your lender. You know what? Interview other lenders. People will say, well, who's got the best rate? The buyer carries the rate with them, right? Because it's their history. It's not about the bank, it's about you. So I suggest to my buyers, interview as many lenders as possible. You probably did the same thing when you picked an agent, right?
Yeah.
You're interviewing different agents. Who do I like best? Because you want to find somebody who has you can have a good relationship with, because your financial history really dictates the rate. And while they're talking about that, interest rates this year, there's a lot we've seen, in articles and things, predicting that it's going to go up. I think we just saw 1 minute ago, 3.3.
Yeah, 3.3 was supposed to be the average. I've heard from some private lenders it might get up to 4.5 in November. So now's kind of a time to buy in case that does happen. But you never know. That's all based upon the stock market and the economy here and so on and so forth with where those go.
So how big of a difference, in your opinion, is 2.9 versus 3.3?
You're talking about somebody that doesn't own a home.
Okay.
It's
minimal.
It is minimal.
It's minimal.
You're
That's not
talking
going to slow the
like
market down.
$50 to $60 a month max,
Yeah, really.
and that's on a higher end home probably.
Right. You're talking a Starbucks a day.
Yeah,
Really, that's what you're talking,
Starbucks, right?
So I mean, that will not. It won't change the market. It may slow the market a little bit, but that's an advantage for buyers.
Yeah.
There's a
you
lot
said
of times.
something earlier that I think was a key. Their wants. You lay them out, and you just say, okay, like, yes, I want this. We read an article earlier. It's talking about how a big trend in 2022 is mental health space in homes. Let me pull that back up because I think that's great. Mental health spaces and features will abound. So everybody's looking for
Meditation rooms.
bathtubs
I agree with
and
that,
meditation rooms and a sunroom. All
Yeah.
these things, those are nice, but you probably can't get everything. The jacuzzi tub and the walk-in shower custom and the back porch. You're gonna have to give up something, at least for now, and then maybe resell in a couple years. That's the big thing I think we're going to see this year is buyers sacrificing some of their wants.
Exactly, and that's what I was talking about. You need to reevaluate, what do I want? What are my things that I must have? And sometimes, especially if you watch certain TV shows, we must have everything. No, there's no way to get everything. So what are the must-haves? What can you compromise on? And then again, reshop your lending situation. Can you get a higher budget? Because really that's what the market's going to demand.
Yeah, and then you look at location. Can you expand out of the one city you want to live in? Can you live with a longer commute to your job? Which one's worth it? Is it worth that 30 minutes of you time driving there, or is it worth having the meditating space at home?
Yeah, and I was talking to another agent who's from Knoxville, and I used to live in Knoxville, and we don't have traffic here, and sometimes my wife will complain that we've got to drive to Johnson City to go out and eat at a good restaurant or a restaurant we want, which is, about 25 minutes away. Well, heck, when we lived in Knoxville, we drove across town. It was 45 minutes. So it's all relative. You're still going to be close, but can you, like you said, broaden your scope so that you can then have more options as far as looking at houses and things.
So what does slim pickings mean for sellers? It's already happened. It was happening 2 years ago. Expect a lot of letters coming in the mail of people trying to either buy your house directly or they want to sell it for you because you have the features that these buyers are looking for. And, you may consider it at that point. Do you need the 4-bed, 3-bath that you have right now, or your kid's in college and you can downsize?
Yeah, that's been a lot of my business this past year, downsizing. I'm actually in the middle of a process with a client right now doing that. So the other thing, too, that we read earlier, which I think is good for our market specifically, is buyers are starting with that mental health space and things like that, and home office. They're looking at larger square footages, so our real shortage is in that 1,500 to 2,500 square foot house. So if then the market starts to shift because of supply and demand into 35, 4,000, 5,000 square feet, we actually have out of those houses available. So I think that really could be good for sellers in our area. If they have those larger homes and want to start to downsize. The other thing that will help our area as far as inventory, we got a national builder here. We've got a lot of local developers they're building homes. They're not building apartment buildings. We talked about that earlier. They're building single family homes. Why? Because the demand is so high, they can make more money at it. If you can make more money at it, you're going to do that versus the other. So, I think for those factors in the upcoming year, it'll be better for buyers. They'll have more of a chance. I'm not saying it won't be crazy because I think it still will be.
It's definitely going to stay a seller's market.
It is. But I think there's opportunities for buyers this coming year if they take some time, get you a realtor, sit down, make a game plan. And we were talking about this too. It's time versus money. So if you can't spend as much money, it's going to take you more time to find a house. That's why I say you really need to sit down and look at your financial situation with a lender, with your agent, and see if you can expand out that budget so that you can make more things available to you. So for sellers, I think it's going to continue to be fantastic.
Yeah, here's a crazy trend we're seeing in 2022. Millennials, Gen Z, a lot of times you're seeing that they're buying their second home before they ever buy their first home. Mm-hmm. Everybody's kind of figured it out at this point. You can bring in that rental income, make some money, and on the flip side of that, it's cheaper to buy your own home than it is to rent.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of factors that go into that, but there's people in place, and you'll see a lot of that on the coming up episodes of how to get you into your first home. That's going to be a big one for me. My age people are buying their first homes.
Well, and then we talked about one reason they're doing that too is because of the rents.
And so that's the thing. It's cheaper to go ahead and get your first home than it is to get a starter home. Right there, buying a starter home is more affordable than renting in most markets.
Well, that's true in our area.
And it's definitely true in our area. Rent's crazy, but it's always going to be used. People are always going to rent for whatever reason. The big thing people have to realize is 3.5% down usually you can get there on your first time. But if you're going to buy that investment property first, you need 20% down. So if you're sitting on $35,000, $40,000, you may be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then turn around and use that profit to get your home while you continue to stay wherever you're at. A lot of people statistically are staying at home until they're 25 to 30 years old now. Whereas, 5 years ago, if you weren't out by 18, it was, what? Why?
Well, and so I'm not a millennial or Gen. I can't remember what Gen. I'm Gen something. But anyway, I was out at 19.
Yeah.
And I've got one married off. So I got another boy that's 20. He's still at home. So I guess he's filling in that role that you're talking about. But we talked about this earlier. Why are rents going up? So it's a seller's market. We talked about that. So there's a lot of people in apartments, right? But there's a lot of people who rent single-family homes. So the people that own those are really investors.
Yeah.
So you've got a rental property, you're renting it. Let's say then somebody moves out, your lease ends or whatever, and they move out. So it's sitting there empty. What's the seller's market? I bought it for this amount. I can sell it for this amount. I'm just going to sell it. So therefore, there's less rental properties available, right? So it's the same thing as the housing. When you're looking at buying houses, if there's less to rent, then and there's still a high demand, rents go up. So, and that's going to continue. The other thing is the builders aren't building apartment complexes right now. They did that a few years ago in our area. We've got lots, but they're not doing that now. Why? Can they make more money building single-family homes right now?
Exactly.
So,
yeah, and there's your answer. If you're on my Facebook friends list and I see you comment on all these rent posts, you're just like, wow, that's so much money. That's crazy. I can't believe it. Well, there's a reason for it. And at the end of the day, those listings for rentals aren't staying on long.
no.
You know, they're getting swooped up because somebody's going to pay it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well,
so there's
and
a lot
again,
of different options.
Some of those are buyers, like those people from California and Idaho. And they get in here, they can't get anything. They've made 100 offers. They don't have anything. Well, I got to rent. I got to have somewhere to live.
Yeah.
Because I've already sold my house in California or wherever it is. And so they're taking up some of that rental too. So, yeah, I mean, it's continuing to build on itself. I really think it's smart. That's the other thing. I don't really think it's smart because if you're a seller, it's not smart because if you're, let's say you do a 4-year or 3-year or 6-year and then a balloon payment at the end of that, well, your house may be worth more then than it is now, and you're going to be selling at a lower price, right? Because you're tied into that. And then the other thing is too is if you're renting to own and you are the buyer, and at some point you walk away from it, this is like rent. You've thrown that money down the drain. So I don't see a lot of rent to own lease purchases right now. That's more when it's a mixed market, when it's both a buyer and a seller's market.
Let's talk about the bubble.
I don't have any gum.
The big bubble. There's not a bubble.
There's no bubble. That's why I don't know why people are talking about a bubble. There is no bubble.
Yeah, I guess everybody's talking about it because to the average informed person, they're seeing, oh, this looks like 2004 to 2008, and then we had 2008 happen, but it's not. It's a little different. We were looking at a graph earlier for Tallahassee, I think, and back in 2003, 4, 5, there was a huge peak in home sales.
Yeah, it was not a steady climb.
It went straight up.
And that was because of some bad decisions in the lending industry that caused that, where people who really qualify for a loan were getting whatever. I remember I had a story this past week from another agent who had a client back in that time who wrote on a piece of paper his income and gave it to a lender, and they accepted it as their income. That is a bad decision, So that burst because it was facsimilated. It wasn't real. Does that make sense? It wasn't tried and true things. That's not what this is happening right now. This is something really we could talk about this in a whole video, but there's a generation, they're called the greatest generation. They're much older now, and they hold a lot of the wealth in this country, right, in their 401k or their savings, and they are unfortunately deceasing. And so that money is then transferring to the younger generation who has been living in the basements because they're 25, and now they're able to buy a house because they have the funds.
Yeah.
1 out of every 3 deals last year was a cash deal. That's because people in higher markets, California, New York, selling houses for millions and coming here and buying it for thousands.
Yeah, we've gone full
so
circle
that's
in the
cash.
beginning of the video.
Then you've got people that are passing away, unfortunately, to COVID and other things, and just because of age, transferring that savings, their life savings, to younger people who are paying cash. So that's a whole nother realm of kind of the reason of things that are happening. So that's what's driving some of this home ownership. Just talked about people, young people, especially millennials, very knowledgeable, very much driven by research, Googling, and they know it is not a smart thing to throw your money away renting. It is better to buy. And so they're doing that. Where I think there's a generation in the middle, maybe between you and me, that didn't get that. They didn't understand that. And so I think that's what's driving. So it's more about knowledge and having the ability to buy.
Yeah.
That's driving this market versus bad lending practices back. So there's really not a bubble. There is a slow and steady increase. And I don't think what we've seen the last 2 or 3 years as far as increase, we will sustain, but I think we'll maintain it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's not a bubble. A bubble won't burst because it's not a bubble.
Yeah. So talk about, kind of why prices are going up. This is a good little article talking about why there is no bubble and why it won't pop.
Yeah.
We're going to stay here. Population's growing. People are moving to cities. They're relocating. They want to live alone.
Yep.
They want more space.
Yes.
And a lot of people have multiple homes that they're owning.
Yes.
And so all that going on, everybody wants more of their own, which, quote an old movie kind of makes me laugh, which is against what we do, but they'll look at that house and they say, what an unethical use of time and materials. And some of it, you could argue is, but that's what people want. And at the end of the day, you have to provide that want. That's just how the economy works. And the problem is the construction's not keeping up. Well, also with all the supply chain, with COVID and so on and so forth, building costs are soaring of materials. It's it's awful. And so you definitely you can't keep up, but you're also expensive. So that's going to drive the house prices up, and it looks like the new normal.
Well, and the other thing is too, it's not only is it costing more to build a house, it's taking longer, which drives your labor up. And the reason you can start a house, it is really easy to start the construction of a house. It is terribly hard to finish.
Yeah.
Because when you finish, you've got individual parts, things like appliances, and those things, the supply chain is in bad shape, and it will take a while. Because why? Well, retail's done really well the last 2 years too.
Yeah.
So they've bought up all that inventory. The other reason, being from retail, I'll tell you the why. You think about places like Lowe's and Home Depot and things like that. Before 2008, retailers would have manufacturers, and that includes home improvement places, build things on speculation. Make things on speculation. So they had warehouses full of stuff. When 2008 hit, that really hurt retail. And so since then, they don't do that. You order it, they make it, they ship it, you get it. That's how it is now. They don't store a lot of stuff. So when this surge of money from stimulus and different things happened, that's what killed the supply chains, because we don't build up storehouses of stuff anymore.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I actually watched a really cool video about this last year. It talks about used to back in the 40s all the way until I guess like the 80s. Everything was designed for when, like in car manufacturing, if they were putting the Lex seal on the windshield or whatever it's called, the coating.
Yes, right.
They would have that ready for when they needed windshields. Well, now it's all backwards, and I'm kind of summing this up, but you want the car, you go to the dealership, and now you order it, and because they have the order, they go ahead and start pushing one down. Well, because they're pushing one down the line, then they call the windshield company, and they say, hey, make the glass, and then the windshield company calls the Lexel, and they say, hey, make the laminate.
Right.
And it's all backwards, whereas used to, it's like, hey, we've got 150 windshields here ready for you. You can go ahead and push 150 cars down the line.
Right.
And, have you seen a car in a car lot in the past year?
I've seen a lot of pavement. I've seen cars. Well, and why is that? Is it because to eliminate cost? I mean, they're trying to eliminate cost and overhead in order to make more money, which, that's fine.
Well, is it that they're trying to make more money, or that they're trying to survive?
Well, yeah.
With COVID and everything, it could be both.
Yeah.
But that was the whole thing. Is they're saying that Toyota was actually the one who had come up with the concept of running on demand. I think I could have that backwards.
Yeah.
But we switched to this running on demand instead of just having a surplus all the time, and that's where we set ourselves up for failure when something like COVID happened.
Yep. Absolutely.
But yeah, so that's what's going on in the building world and causing house prices to go up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you have to be in a whole nother bracket to build a custom home right now.
Yeah.
You know, really the only way, we were talking about this yesterday because we were talking with a national builder here in town, the only way for an average person to buy a new construction home is, you know, I don't know what you call them, assembly line home builder. You know, where you have a neighborhood, they're
Spec
all
houses.
Spec houses. There's only so many, and that's the only way you can really get a new house these days. And those are great houses. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have a lot of land. That was one of the things I was talking about earlier is in the trends that we see with these folks coming from California, New York, different areas that are in the city. It's amazing to me they're coming in here wanting to buy 30 acres up on a mountain. You know, and I'm like, and I've got a client coming from Orlando. You know, and Orlando, you know, obviously it's a big city. Very heavily trafficked, lots of services, lots of different retailers and stuff like that. And I've got a client, she's actually a real estate agent, and she's like, I want to be up in the middle of mountains. I'm like, no, you don't. Because that would be, I understand, but just moving into Johnson City is going to be a culture change
Huge
from
shock.
Orlando.
Yeah.
Think about if you're on a mountain up on the Blue Ridge, you know, and you're 30 minutes from the grocery store. That's too much. And so she's like, okay, you're right. But it is amazing to me that, and I think that's part of the pandemic. People are wanting to get away. They see the negativity of being close to people, and they want to get away and have some space around them. But at the same time, you got to be careful of the culture shock.
Yeah, let's circle back to those high prices. What does that look like for buyers, and what can they do? I'm pulling this straight from Dave Ramsey, which is a great person that I look up to as far as financial advice. But he says, limit your house payment to no more than 25% of your monthly take-home pay. So budget for it, figure out what you can afford, and go ahead and have at least saved up 10 to 20% instead of that nominal 3.5% that we used to shoot for. That's still possible, but ideally to make the most financially sound advice, you're going to want at least a 10% down payment. And then, of course, you're going to recommend going with a 15-year rate if you can. But if you can calculate all that and make that work, then if you find a house you want and it's priced too high, switching over to a 30-year and putting 5% down, you're going to make things happen.
Yeah. Well, I think, like I said, take inventory of where you're at. That's what buyers need to do right now, working with their real estate agent plus
and their
lenders.
Yeah.
So, not only taking stock of where a buyer is in their financial position, but also what can I do as far as terms? Do I have to have repairs, or can I just have the inspection to make sure the thing's not going to fall down? Can I offer, can I do my own home warranty instead of having the seller pay for it? Things like that show good faith. Makes it an offer more pleasing to a seller.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot we could go into on another video.
No, we don't talk about that.
No, we're not talking about that. I think there's just like one more thing we had on our outline here that we wanted to really talk about, and I don't know, maybe we covered it all.
I think we're good.
I think this is that point where we look back and say, like, hey, what are your questions?
Yeah, really.
Oh, where do you want to see here? What can I make a video on? What can we talk about?
What are your worries, concerns for the upcoming year?
We hit that like, comment, subscribe. There's a button somewhere.
That's right.
But yeah, so hopefully we've added some more value.
Yeah.
Episode number 2 of we're gonna call this.
Finally Weichert, man.
And
finally Weichert.
But we appreciate the studio here, and we appreciate y'all tuning in. I appreciate your time, and you have anything else to add?
No. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thanks
signing out.
Have a good day.